think often of your work as sort of the wind beneath the wings of lots of movements, because you gave us something to sing when we were there up against troops or whatever it was. People who saw the film Sir, No Sir, which documented the anti-war activism of active duty military in Vietnam, may have seen you in passing in the sections that had to do with the Free the Army tour. But they may not really get what all that was about. You and Jane Fonda and a lot of others speaking at coffee houses around the country. Talk about that experience. You were still super young.
When I got back from that trip, Philippines, Okinawa, Japan, Hawaii, I was a different person. I had been transformed, and I just sat down and wrote songs, took them to the record companies that I had been in conversation with, and they said, well, we love your voice, but these lyrics are too political. Write different lyrics. These are great melodies. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I'll just record them myself in a little studio, and then I'll go back and get the record deal. And I just never went back. I started my own label. Somebody said to me, how is it that there were people like Jackson Browne and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Joan Baez and all these people who were doing peace work and anti-war work and singing songs like that, that my work wasn't acceptable to the record companies? Why didn't I get in on that wave? And I think one of it is I was a little bit younger, and I came sort of after the Hootenanny and after the Smothers Brothers shows and after, you know. But the other thing was, I think, words like genocide. I think you can talk about being opposed to war, but you cross a line when you start to use words like that. And I found it later on with gender politics and feminism, that as long as you sort of talked about generic love and you took pronouns out and things like that was okay, but if you actually said lesbian, that was another line that was crossed.
I know that you have people in your life who are models of having crossed those lines. Ronnie Gilbert, for example, an interesting
The Weavers
career.
crossed that line, yeah, and Ronnie was the woman voice in that. So much so that they couldn't get work. After the McCarthy era, they just kind of split up, and Ronnie went off and did theater and became a therapist, and she hadn't sung until I guess she heard one of my records. Her daughter gave her one of my records, and she said, "Who is this girl?" So, you know, I dedicated the record to her. And
without knowing her?
Without knowing her, no. And she was sort of terrified that some young kid had dedicated her, and she wasn't going to like the music. So she put it on, but she actually liked it a lot. And she came to visit me, met my parents, and we had a lovely conversation, and I invited her back to singing, which we did. I think the first time we sang together was Wasn't That a Time, in a loft where she and I sang together.
Holly's new album is Peace Becomes You. You can get more information at our website.